RavenEye. This is DJI's new wireless image transmission system. The point of it is to work with their brand new RS2 and RSC2 gimbals to send the picture directly from your camera's sensor to your phone, where you can control the gimbal in a variety of ways, as well as setting up active track, focus peaking, and control a whole bunch of camera settings. In this video, I'm going to go over the setup process for RavenEye in order to get it to work with or without your gimbal. My name is Nicholas Johnson, and this is the Space Warehouse. The RavenEye Image Transmission System comes with a whole raft of cables and has printed on it and the gimbal something of an enigma of partially matching icons and symbols. The instruction manual isn't impossible to understand, but it's not exactly perfectly clear either. Here's how you set it up with a Sony camera, and for most other cameras it'll be mostly the same setup, it's just there's a handful of different ports, hence all the extra cords you get. Micro-HDMI, mini-HDMI, HDMI, microUSB, mini-USB, USB Type-C, the Sony Multi-cable. There's a bunch of different options, but the way you set it up is the same though for all cameras. First step, slide the RavenEye itself onto your gimbal on the same arm but under where your camera attaches. There's nothing to tighten, it's just going to slide and click into place. Next, DJI suggests that you face the antennas away from the gimbal motors so it doesn't have interference. Next, onto the cables. Specifically, starting with the USB data cable that goes to your camera. This tripped me up a little bit. It wasn't initially clearly explained, but if you have a Sony a6600, if you have the Sony a6600, there's two cables that fit into your camera's USB port. The microUSB, and then there's a Sony Multi-cable, which is shaped like a micro-USB. You're going to want to use the Sony Multi-cable in order to control the gimbal. If you use the micro-USB cable, you can control camera settings like aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, but you can't control the gimbal and you don't get the image transmitted to your phone. If you use the Sony Multi-cable, you have full control over the gimbal and you get the image sent to your phone from across the room so you can see the framing and control everything, but you don't have control over your camera settings. It's really weird. The DJI says that it's one or the other. For whatever reason, they can't make one cable that does it all, or at least not yet. So that cable, the USB data cable from your camera, goes to this little RSS/little camera icon port on the gimbal arm itself, and that goes over to your camera's USB port. Next, figure out which version of HDMI your camera uses. On the a6600, it's a micro HDMI. There's also a mini HDMI and then HDMI, but there's cables for each thing in your package, so just figure out which one fits your camera. And on the RavenEye, it's pretty obvious. It's a full-size HDMI, goes over to your camera's HDMI on the same side. And finally, from the USB Type-C slot with the Roman numeral 1 and this little icon right here to the opposite side of the RavenEye from where the HDMI is. And that's going to allow the RavenEye to take control over the gimbal. You'll see that same little squiggly icon and also a Thunderbolt icon, or maybe it's just a generic this port charges icon. But either way, this is the port that you charge it from. The RavenEye does have its own battery, so it can work just on a tripod with a camera without a gimbal, and you can charge the RavenEye's battery with any USB-C port, like your MacBook charger or whatever will charge it up. But with that cable connected, it does control the gimbal, and also the gimbal gives the RavenEye power, so it keeps it topped off. Okay, great. Now this thing's mounted and all the cables are in the right place. There's a couple of camera settings that need to be turned on and off in order for it to work properly. First, go over to the settings from your camera. Again, this is in the case of Sony cameras, specifically the a6600, but I think all Sony cameras have the same menus. Go on over to the yellow briefcase menu and make sure that USB PC remote is selected. Then head on over to the green globe thing menu and make sure that control with smartphone is off. Those two things have to be that way for everything to work properly. Now, with your gimbal and your camera powered on, press and hold the power button on the back of the RavenEye until 3 white lights make their way to the left and then a red light comes on. Once that red light turns blue, that means everything's on and the Wi-Fi is working and you're ready to connect. So now we're going to head on over to the DJI Ronin app, and at the bottom it says Connect to RavenEye. This will bring you to a settings page on your phone for the Ronin app, and what it's asking you to do, and it's not clear again, is to turn the Bluetooth off. The manual tells you to do that somewhere, but it's easy to miss that little part. So make sure your Bluetooth is turned off, then head back over to settings, go to your Wi-Fi, and now there should be a RavenEye Wi-Fi that pops up. On the back of your actual RavenEye module, there's a little sticker with the RavenEye Wi-Fi name and password. Make sure to write down that password before you start doing this so you don't have to go back to it. It's really tiny. So yeah, I've already connected, so it's not asking me for a password, but at this point you'll be putting in the RavenEye password, and once it's connected to that Wi-Fi, go back to the Ronin app. And might take a couple seconds, but blammo, it's just gonna open right up and have a live view in the app. This is super handy just to see your framing, so you don't have to get up and walk over to the back of your camera to make sure everything's framed up correctly. And with this little thing on the lower left, there's actually a virtual joystick you can turn on so that you can make just slight little corrections or whatever if you need to. Opens up a whole new world for filming yourself. With this little palette on the lower left, you have a bunch of helpful little displays. From left to right, The first one is the zebras, so you can see when something is blown out, like this window highlight over here. Next is the, I think they call this false color, where anything that's blue is going to be deep in the shadows and anything that's red is going to be bright in highlights. Focus peaking, which is super helpful if you're using manual focus on your lens. You'll notice as I move back, I got red lines all over me, but as I move towards my microphone, the microphone will start turning red, and then anything that's got these weird outlines is going to be in focus. So if you're again, if you're setting manual focus with your camera, you can tell where the focus is sitting. LUTs, it lets you add a LUT in real time if you want to. I don't find this to be very helpful, but I don't have any LUTs on my phone, and I don't like the ones that are on there. So, and then if anyone else can tell me what this might be for, you have the option to look at it all in just red, just green, or just blue, or black and white. I don't really see how that would be super helpful, but here it is as an option. You can do it. In addition to all that, and my favorite part of this whole RavenEye thing altogether, is you can just touch and drag a box around anything, person or object, and it's going to start tracking that thing. Maybe if you're someone who likes to wander around the room while you're making a point about something, and you don't have a friend who wants to be a cameraman, or you're too shy to speak in front of a cameraman, now you got yourself a cameraman. So there you have it. That's how you set up the RavenEye transmitter. I hope that if anyone was stuck in the middle of this process, this video helped you out a little bit. And if you have any additional questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll find out an answer one way or the other. I'm Nicholas Johnson. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more, and I just don't know how to end a YouTube video yet. I'll figure it out one day.